Tyler Glasnow is hurt now. The Dodgers pitchers are falling like flies. What's next? We're going to talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know your Fire TV is also on Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with your Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. I'm Ben Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. You can find us wherever we get podcasts and on YouTube. You can subscribe to make it easier to be an everydayer. And if you're an everydayer, you know that Tyler Glasnow was injured or came out early of his last start, and it was just cramps, and they weren't worried about it. And then now there's a different issue to be worried about. We're going to talk about that. Ben Casparius came in, saved the day. He might be somebody that could start for the Dodgers. And then the Dodger offense finally had a last couple good games with the Red Hat. Andy Pages leading the way. So we're going to get into all that, but we're going to start with Tyler Glasnow because, Jeff, he pitched one inning, and then he was warming up for his second inning, and then Ben Casparius was on the mound. And didn't look great in the moment. A lot of the post-game talk was about they're not really sure what's going on. He felt a grab in his shoulder. He thinks it's from changing all the mechanics in order to save his elbow. He looked frustrated. Obviously, we're frustrated as fans watching it. And, yeah, Jeff, it just sucks to see. I tried to be on his side of he's not a guy that's injury prone. He just had some bad luck. And maybe that bad luck is extending himself into more.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is he's never – pitched a complete season, and for all his talent, that might just be who he is. It's definitely frustrating. You could tell how frustrated he was. I feel terrible for the guy. You know, obviously, as much as we want him to be healthy, he wants it even more. Like, it's his livelihood. It's the thing he loves to do. It's obviously very frustrating for everybody involved, and it's just a big bummer. The only silver lining I see is it's April 27th. And you know what? If we saw it with, and we've seen it with many people over the years where I don't care if you miss the whole season, if you're ready in October, you know, and the problem is we don't have a crystal ball to say, oh, don't worry, he'll be ready in October, you know, because in order to be ready in October, he really needs to be ready in August so he can be built up for October. And so we can see, oh, he's actually one of the four best options in October. So he's going to have to be better at some point. Obviously, if this is a surgery issue, then he's done for the year. But, you know, Dave Roberts, I saw some snark on social media, if you can imagine such a thing, about Dave Roberts' comments. He seemed clear to be talking about we're not thinking about surgery right now. When he said we're long-term, we're not too concerned. Obviously, it's a pretty big concern right now. And while Dave Roberts still left a question on the table about whether he go on the IL, it's hard to picture any solution that doesn't involve Tyler Glasnow on the IL in the next day or two.
Yeah, just for the simple fact of this is now 2 games in the last 2 starts and 3 starts total where he's put the Dodgers in a rough spot going, you know, less than 2-3 innings and having them have bullpen games when they already have sometimes bullpen games scheduled. And you know, that's kind of the biggest thing with this is put him on the IL for nothing else of just to rest. The fact that it's the shoulder and not the elbow makes you feel slightly better in the sense of he's not re-injuring the elbow that hurt him at the end of last year, being the shoulder. That still can be an issue, and that's still something that you don't want to see. You know, could be inflammation. I don't know why they said they weren't going to do imaging. I don't see a reason to not do imaging just to see what it is and go from there. But with Glasnow, it's a bigger story of, I mean, he said it so many times. He said the word frustrating a lot of times, but he also kept saying, you know, it goes back to mechanics. And, you know, maybe him overthinking it a little bit is kind of what I got out of, okay, now this feels good, but this doesn't feel good. So let me overcompensate. And then, okay, well, now that feels a little weird. And, I'm sure with the size and that he is, there are a lot of levers to pull and to get right in order for him to feel comfortable. But I don't know. It makes you feel like, man, is he ever going to find it?
Yeah. And it's easy for us to think of these guys as, I don't know, like we almost blame people when they get hurt, but like you think about every injury you've ever had, most of the time it's not something you predicted or could have predicted. It's just, that, and obviously we do different things for fun and for a living than guys like Tyler Glasnow, but there's nothing about being a world-class pitcher that also makes you have this supernatural insight into what might hurt. And all you can really do is go out there and do it. And so, yeah, he tried to change his mechanics to keep his elbow healthy. And yeah, you know what? Like I've said many times, the human body isn't meant to throw a ball 98 miles an hour. And if you're taking stress off the elbow doing it, you're putting some of that stress elsewhere. And obviously the goal is to put that stress onto the legs and the core and spread it out across the whole body. But it sounds like maybe an inordinate amount of that stress is going to the shoulder right now. And, we don't know if this is a big deal or not. And like you said, they hinted that they might not do imaging. I'd be shocked if they don't do imaging. There's no reason not to do imaging. But the fact that they would even consider not doing imaging suggests that maybe it's precautionary, that it's like, because we did say that before the season, that they were going to have a hair trigger IL with Tyler Glasnow. If anything hurts even a little bit early in the season, boom, let's take a couple weeks off. And that's with the goal of him pitching in October. And, the unspoken part of that we talked about that we didn't say out loud in the offseason was that's going to be frustrating every time it happens. Whether it's Blake Snell or Tyler Glasnow or any other pitcher, every time a pitcher goes on the IL, it's going to be frustrating. And we're going to think of the worst case scenario. What if he's out for the season? Do we have enough depth? All that stuff. Unfortunately, this is kind of the game plan the Dodgers planned for.
Yeah, obviously they didn't want to lose, two of their starters in this first month when they do have the 5-man rotation going in before they can get, like Clayton Kershaw's not eligible to come back until middle of May. So even though he's almost ready to go, like in a week or two, he's still gonna have to wait a month, or 3.5 weeks or so. So there's just a lot going on. But with Glasnow, yeah, it sucks. I'm assuming they're being extra cautious, extra precautionary. I'm sure he's being extra cautious, extra precautionary. He's been here before where he's tried to pitch through something that bothered him, and ultimately it ended up, being Tommy John surgery. So I'm sure he doesn't want to go through surgery again if he doesn't have to, similar to what happened last year when his elbow started barking. I'm sure he could have pitched through it if he really wanted to. And if he was in a contract year, maybe he would have pitched through it last year, and maybe, something worse could happen and he would have been, worse off. For him, at least there's the comfort knowing that there is, he's not in his contract year. He has some stability in terms of that. And, for him and the Dodgers to work together to kind of figure out what it is. And if it's as simple as, okay, we're going to ramp you back up in late August and try to get you going in September, and hopefully you're still good in October.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it'll take that long, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we'll find out more in the next day or two. Like I said, I'd be shocked if he doesn't go on the IL though.
Yeah, not like I said, nothing else than for the Dodgers need arms. They have Dustin May pitching on Monday, but then they have a bullpen game scheduled Tuesday, and Tony Gonsolin makes his return on Wednesday. One of the options for the bullpen game could be a guy in AAA right now. One of the options for the next time through the rotation, though, could be Ben Casparius, and he's a guy that saved the day on Sunday and has been saving the day a couple of times for the Dodgers and could continue that by stepping into the rotation. We're going to talk about that, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving you customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy. You can pick your favorite team. If you picked Lakers to win, you did not get your $250 in bonus bets because Lakers did not win on Sunday. But there are also player props, and obviously there's more games than just Lakers if you want to go beyond that. 3-pointer steals, assists. There's so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. And even if the game already tips off, but you think someone's going to have a big second half or a big fourth quarter, you can get some live prop bets going and a same game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com right now and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day or your last listen of the day if it's Sunday here at 9 p.m. Whatever listen of the day, we appreciate those of you for listening. And remember, you can always go beyond the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It was very popping over the weekend with this Pirate series in the Discord server that we have for Locked On Dodgers Insiders. And, it might be a little bit better than just being on Twitter all day if you, want to be closer with people or people that are maybe not as pessimistic as others. But yeah. Jeff, Ben Casparius came in and got the Dodgers through a big part of this game. 3 2/3 innings, struck out 5, couple hits, no runs, no walks. He is a guy that has been, kind of the long guy, especially more recently. He's had to have been the long guy a couple times by necessity rather than, just, hey, go finish out this game, last 3 innings. It's been, hey, we're in the second inning, our starter's out, or hey, we're in the 4th inning, our starter's out, whatever it is, go get us some innings. Dave Roberts said that they could think about stretching them into a starter. They're getting Tony Gonsolin back. That'll give them 5 starters again or 4 starters. I don't know. I'm lost with all these pitchers, but it'll give them another guy that can start for them in a rotation until hopefully nobody else gets hurt and Clayton Kershaw comes back in the middle of May.
Yeah, Kershaw is one coming back. Gonsolin and Kershaw both coming back. That basically fills the holes left by Snell and Glasnow. You do start to wonder, will they maybe ramp up Shohei Ohtani? They've been kind of slow playing that, but it doesn't appear to be for any physical reason, just to let's take our time on that. So maybe they decide to take less time, or maybe they just say, hey, one of you minor league guys who struggled the first time up here, we're going to give you a run. You're going to get 3 starts, and let's see how you can do. I see people in the chat clamoring for Brent Honeywell. They've got guys in the organization right now who are significantly better than Brent Honeywell. And, if you just need somebody to eat innings, Landon Knack is going to do an infinitely better job than Brent Honeywell, just on account of the fact that Landon Knack is a better pitcher than Brent Honeywell. And so, whether it's Knack, this week, it's kind of interesting because, Landon Knack just pitched the other day, went 7 innings. So he's probably not an option to start on Tuesday if they're looking for a starter on Tuesday. And Justin Robleski pitched on Sunday and got lit up. And so he's not an option, and which means really we're looking at probably Bobby Miller again. And that's not going to make anybody happy. But if you need somebody, Bobby Miller last time at least did eat some innings and pitch poorly. And for that matter, the Dodgers won the game too. But we talked about at the time, Bobby Miller it wasn't a good outing, but he's one hanging curveball to Michael Toglia away from having, at least results-wise, a decent outing.
Yeah, and, they mentioned bullpen, they didn't mention calling one up. We don't know if that's going to be the case, but based on the fact that Ben Casparius had to throw 3 2/3 today, based on the fact that the new guy, Yoendrys Gomez, threw 3 innings today, they may have to call someone up just to give them some length in general because, that even though they did a good job of managing this with Luis Garcia, Yoendrys Gomez taking care of the last 4 innings of the game, you didn't have to do too much in terms of your other guys, but you also don't know what you're going to get out of Dustin May on Monday. He had his first hiccup in his last start, and, the Marlins aren't a necessarily good hitting team, but everyone can be a good hitting team on a bad day for a pitcher. So maybe it's one that they slow play and kind of say, okay, if May gives us some length, then maybe we'll just run a regular bullpen game on Tuesday. If May doesn't give us some length, maybe we'll have somebody on call, like maybe Bob Miller's on call or on standby already. We don't know. Yeah, but when it comes to Casparius, he threw 54 pitches today. Very easy to get him up to 65 in his next, if you wanted to start. And, he's going to need at least 3-4 times through the rotation until you can get Kershaw back and that fills another spot in the rotation. So maybe, they just say, Ben Casparius, you're a starter now and try to give us, 4 or 5 innings every time you go out there.
Yeah, call it a bullpen game or a Ben Casparius start. Either way, it maybe at first Ben Casparius is the opener of the bullpen game, like he was, a couple days ago, and he went 2 2/3, and just say okay. And at some point, he stops being an opener and starts being a starter, and it's not really a difference. That one of the challenging things is right now the Dodgers only have 3 pitchers on their roster with 3 relievers on their roster. Roki Sasaki is an option, but 3 relievers who have minor league options available. And those are Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer, and Ben Casparius. And all 3 of those guys deserve to be in the big leagues, but you do wonder, if they might say, okay, well, if we're going to stretch out Casparius and Casparius isn't available for a couple days anyway, maybe they option him. And I can already imagine the uproar and the outcry if Casparius gets optioned. One thought I had is if they wanted to try to get tricky with things, they could option Casparius to call up somebody and then put Tyler Glasnow on the IL and call Casparius back up, because when you get optioned as a pitcher, you have to stay in the minors for 15 days unless you're replacing an injured player. And so I haven't run all those scenarios through my head to figure out if that would actually be a roster benefit, because they'd rather probably option somebody and put Glasnow on the IL at the same time so they could call up 2 guys. But then you look at the minors, it's like, which 2 guys? Bobby Miller and, call Noah Davis back up, call Matt Sauer back up. It's tricky right now.
Yeah, it is tricky right now. I haven't seen it in the chat, but I Tristan McKenzie, I've seen that name mentioned by a couple of Dodger fans just because he's a known name. He was DFA'd by the Guardians recently. I would imagine you can get him for somewhat cheap if that was something, but realistically, I don't think they're going to bring somebody else into it when right now they still have enough to get by, with the guys that they have. Now it's just a matter of, for this Tuesday specifically, they're in a weird spot because Landon Knack did just throw 2 days ago. Justin Robleski did just throw Knack threw yesterday. Robleski threw today, Saturday and Sunday, and they might not have that length. Gomez was going to be a guy that probably they were going to use a lot, but then they had to use him 3 innings today. So, does he get DFA'd again in order to make room for somebody? Luis Garcia, probably, he's actually been pitching better of late and has been a guy that they can kind of use whenever they want. So I don't think that's they don't want to DFA him. But then Dreyer and Vesia and Casparius have been 3 of your better arms or most useful arms. So you don't really want to option them without having some kind of backup plan. So they just have to get through the next 3 games, and then then they can reset and worry about the next set of games. But we know with Gonsolin coming back, that'll help. If Casparius becomes a starter, then you're in a decent spot. But then you're also just waiting on pins and needles, hoping that nothing else happens.
Yeah, Tristan McKenzie is like Bobby Miller with worse stuff and an extra year since the last time he was any good. So no thanks on Tristan McKenzie. I see in the chat Kevin asking, why aren't we talking about Jackson Ferris? Jackson Ferris is the problem there. I'm excited about Jackson Ferris long term. A couple issues. Right now, he's not on the 40-man roster, which is definitely one hurdle. It's not an insurmountable hurdle because you could easily DFA somebody like Noah Davis and to add Ferris, but the Dodgers are kind of counting on that Noah Davis spot for when they have to activate Clayton Kershaw or, all these other guys on the 60-day IL right now. The other problem is Jackson Ferris, as good as he is and as well as he has pitched in the minor leagues, isn't pitching great in Tulsa this year so far in Double-A. And B, even when he was pitching great, he wasn't pitching any better than guys like Justin Robleski and Landon Knack and Bobby Miller did in the minors. And so I think Jackson Ferris right now to a lot of fans is that shiny new thing of, he could definitely do better, but the fact is we have no idea how he would do in the big leagues. And chances are probably not as well as a Landon Knack or a Bobby Miller or a Justin Robleski.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a weird time right now. You can see, a little bit of light in the tunnel, but you do have to get through the next few weeks. They are going to have to make some decisions with a lot less days off in May. They're not going to be able to kind of skate by the way they did in April with, using Yamamoto once every 6 days and using Roki once every 6 days. Like, maybe Roki stays on that timeline. Maybe Yamamoto comes off it. Maybe they, slot someone else. Like, they're going to have to start maneuvering and figuring out what they want to do, whether it's going to a 6-man rotation, whether it's, starting up a caravan of, okay, we're just going to keep picking up guys and dropping them as we go and, get 3-4 innings out of guys wherever we can. But as of now, they're just in a weird spot, but not a bad spot. And the fact of the matter is, after this week, it could just be as simple as, hey, Landon Ack, you're on the Dodgers again.
Yeah, or somebody, one of those guys. Yeah, you're going to get 3 or 4 starts and see if you can figure out how to pitch in the big leagues again.
Yeah, so the good thing about the pitching not being as well, pitching was good, just, in a flux right now, is that the Dodger offense got it going the last 2 days, led by everyone's favorite, Andy Pages. Shohei Ohtani seemed to wake up a little bit. There was a lot of good from the offense. What else can we expect? Let's talk about it. Let's get locked. Make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching a live MLB game. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the ballpark food, the promotion, whatever it is. If you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the Dodgers have their homestand the next 3 days, you want to get some tickets, you want to go check out the Dodgers, you can do that now, because then they head out for a little while and then you have to wait till they come back. So whether it's a spontaneous game night or whether it's something you're planning on or whether it's a bobblehead that you want, Game Time has unbeatable prices, which means more money for food and merch. And if you've never been to a game or you've never been to the venue you're going to, you can always check out the preview from your exact seat before purchasing, so there's no surprises when you get to the stadium. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, an everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. We appreciate those of you that already are everydayers. If this is your first time watching, it's very easy to become an everydayer. Just listen and watch every day. We're here for you Sunday through Thursday nights most weeks, which is Monday through Friday if you listen in the morning. Either way, we're here for you after most games almost all the time. So we're going to get into that. And Jeff, Andy Pages had himself a weekend. He had, 10 total hits in the 3 games.
12.
Yeah, 10 for 12. Had a big night with 4 RBI on Sunday. Had another big night. It was the only guy that really got to Paul Skeens on Friday in the Dodgers loss. And he kind of robbed another homer. I think he was going to go over the fence. Defense, I find myself not paying attention as much when you see him getting on base a lot.
Yeah, the defense definitely hasn't been terrible, and there have been some high points. I'm still relatively convinced that 2 of those 3 nice plays he's made for Roki would have looked easier for a better outfielder. But you know what? He's making up for things with his athleticism, and that's all you can really ask for. And there have been some really good outfielders, center fielders who have kind of had that approach. I don't have the best routes. I don't have the best reads, but I'm very athletic and I'm going to make up for it. And obviously his arm is a big weapon out there. If it's kind of like, what we've talked about with Mookie Betts at shortstop, if Andy Pages can be a league average defensive center fielder, and if he can hit, that's totally valuable. League average defense and good offense in center field is definitely something you'll take. The offense is what's been most exciting. Obviously, I saw somebody in the YouTube comments on one of our post-game shorts said that Pages has been getting lucky. If you look at his Baseball Savant page, there's still a lot of blue, which means bad metrics and stuff. And I replied to that comment. I said, a lot of that is just because he's only been hot for a week and a half, 2 weeks now at the most. And that depends on how you define hot. But he was really, really cold to start the season. And so the overall metrics, the overall numbers haven't caught up yet. And so I looked specifically at the lucky, and I looked at this series. 9 of his 10 hits had an expected batting average of at least 490. Most of them were up in the 600 to 800 range. Like there was only one cheap hit. One of it, he had a bloop double against Paul Skeens that had a expected batting average of 030. The other ones were all legitimate hits. And if you add up the expected batting average of those 10 hits, it adds up to just over 6 hits. So yes, he got a little bit lucky. Anytime you go 10 for 12, there's a little bit of luck involved because by definition, if you hit a ball that has a 600 expected batting average, 40% of the time it's going to be an out. And so for all of those to fall in one weekend, yes, there's a little luck there. But the fact is he hit the ball really well. And while we shouldn't expect him to get 10 hits in every series, if he keeps hitting the ball like that, yeah, we should expect him to get, 6. He should have had a batting average of 500 this weekend instead of 833. You know what? 500 is still a good batting average. # math.
Yeah, and we're still early enough in the season where this hot weekend kind of skews all the numbers. I mean, you go back and, okay, look at his last 7 games, he's hitting 500, but there's 13 hits. So 10 of those hits were these last 3 games. You go back to the last 15 games, he's hitting 377, with half those hits coming in the last 3 games. So, the numbers are kind of skewed if you try to look big picture stuff. But the fact of the matter is, he's hitting right now. And there are still guys that aren't hitting right now that Michael Conforto still hasn't figured out. Mookie's still, in a little bit of a slump. But the other guys have been, helping out. And that's, Freddie Freeman, who they were talking about on the broadcast, how he's, talking about it's been a grind and everything else and blah, blah. Well, his OPSing, high 800s, 900 now. And that's just, ho-hum for Freddie Freeman. We saw finally Shohei Ohtani look better this weekend, take some balls the other way, start hitting some balls down the line again, getting, 2 doubles and a triple on Friday or on Saturday, one of those Saturday. Yeah. And that's what the Dodgers need. Andy Paez gets on base and Shohei Ohtani comes over runners on base. And it's not always going to work out. On Friday, Saturday, we saw Shohei Ohtani come up with 2 runners on, and that's the one time he didn't get a hit. But the fact of the matter is that he had the chance to do it, and that's something that they need from the whole lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing with Andy Paez is it looks better. Sometimes the eye test lines up with the stat test, and his swing earlier in the season, it looked like he was trying to flip the ball into right field, or flip the ball anywhere. Even when he pulled the ball, it was a loopy and not really a powerful swing. And now, even when he hits it opposite field, he's driving it to the opposite field. He's pulling turnaround balls. The swing itself looks more balanced. I'm not a hitting coach. I don't have the right words to explain exactly, but if you watch video of when he was really bad 3 weeks ago and now, you can see with your naked eye the difference and just say, oh yeah, that looks more like a swing that's going to get a hit. And, so that's why, I see Kenny in the chat saying that Paul has to get cold again, and he'll definitely have slumps again, but this looks to be a mechanical change that led to this improvement. And whether that's just confidence, and so he's swinging more confidently, I don't know. But he definitely looks better too.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about what we saw from this weekend. And, it's very easy to say, oh, it's just the Pirates. They did lose the game against Skeens and they didn't score any runs that game. But you can only play who's in front of you. And if they have to play the Pirates and now they have to play the Marlins, and then, they play the Marlins again after they play the Braves, that's just the way it has to go sometimes. And if you can get your hits, maybe that gets you in a rhythm. Maybe that makes you, start feeling better, whatever the case. Even though this is kind of like the Rockies series where the Dodgers offense looked really good. They got, 10 plus hits in 2 of the games and put up, some big runs. But also you need to see, the consistency, because after the Rockies series, we didn't see it consistently keep on going. And, that's when we started talking about the offense struggling again. So even if it's okay, we're playing 2 bad teams in back-to-back series, take care of those 2 bad teams in back-to-back series and just get it done.
Yeah, and especially if you are having mechanical issues, sometimes you get out of those slumps against bad pitchers and you rebuild those good habits in your swing, and it carries over to good pitchers too, which I don't know who the Dodgers will be going up against in the Braves series, but the Braves do have some good pitching, so it'll be a good challenge, but hopefully the Dodgers can continue to put in the work in the batting cage against the Marlins, the live BP or whatever you want to call it. Hopefully it'll be, it's like you said, you play who's on the schedule, and I would rather have a 9-2 win than a 3-2 win or a 3-0 loss.
Yeah. Last thing real quick, there's a lot of Conforto talk. We've talked a lot about Michael Conforto. He's down to 179 on the season, 627 OPS. A lot of that, it was early part of the season. He's hitting 125 with a slug of 125 in the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, he's not good right now. The Dodgers aren't going to DFA him right now. They're going to hope that some other guys start hitting. Maybe it becomes contagious. They're going to hope that they can figure some other stuff out. Maybe get Pages more starts in left field. Kike had a couple hits this week in a big 3-run home run. Maybe that's somebody that can get a couple more starts now. Maybe playing center, that puts Pages in left, puts Conforto on the bench a few games. They're going to try to get it going for him. I don't see anything happening with him until at least June, the earliest.
Yeah, we spent big parts of 2 episodes last week talking about Conforto. So if you're not an everydayer and you missed those, go back. I know the one that I did with Clint, we talked about Conforto, and then the one you and I did the next day, we talked more about Conforto. So those are easy to find, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Dodgers.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you got anything else?
No, Dodgers 1-2 out of 3. Obviously, would have been nice to sweep. Would have been nice to get to Paul Skeens, but Paul Skeens, breaking news, he's a good pitcher, and so
they had the chances. They just he shut it down.
Yeah, and but you win that series. That's what you go into that series open for, and now you kind of go into this Marlins series looking for a sweep, because this is a series that on paper, even with, we have no idea who's pitching on Tuesday, and we know Tony Gonsolin is pitching for the first time in a year and a half on Wednesday. Even with all that, on paper, the Dodgers should win all 3 games in this series.
Yeah, you got to beat up on the teams that aren't supposed to be good, and I don't know if they're facing. I know they're facing Cabrera, Alcantara. I think they're missing the Max Mayer this time around, who's been their best pitcher. So a little bit of luck. They've been getting everybody's best pitcher so far. So Alcantara is good, but he hasn't been as good this season coming off injury. So,
yep.
We'll see what happens, but we'll be here to talk about all 3 games the rest of the week. So thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers the first listen of the day. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. All you have to do is subscribe to make that easier on yourself. If you're done checking us out, you can check out Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can go beyond the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers, and also join our Discord server to talk Dodgers with other Locked On Dodgers Insiders. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, LockedOnDodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, take Smart Device Pay Podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.